this thing. Oh, there it goes. Nope. We're finally in. We've made it. We have won. I don't even know if we won. Doesn't show you how everybody else is loading. But we're going to pretend we won. That's for sure. That is for sure. Initializing. Gene, come on, Gene. Billy Jean? Knife has left the game. Gene's gonna get it. Get it, Gene. I'm gonna predict ha and O. No. I had half of it right. I don't know who would win that one. I feel like the Roach shouldn't be able to attack the DT, though. But it looks like we have a PVZ coming up here, so I'm just going to put my predicting cap on. We're probably going to see a Forge Fast Expand. And then after we see a Forge Fast Expand, we're either going to see a super aggressive early push from our Zerg player, or, you know, early 3-base. It's just my prediction. I really don't like the PVZ matchup. I mean, I do, don't get me wrong. At the high levels, it's really interesting to watch. But at the lower levels, I'm just a little bitter today. Alright, I've lost a few games today. It wasn't so much fun. And I'm a bit bitter. A bit bitter. Bit sour, if you will. I lost a few things that I definitely shouldn't have. Let's see, I played a PVZ earlier, and I went early 3-base, and my Protoss opponent didn't even wall in well. Let's say it was right here, and he walled in back here, and there was just a huge gap here and here that I could get in, and I should have gone for basically, you know, God, I should have just gone for like an 11 Roach Rush. A +1 Roach Rush, and then I could have just pushed past, and he would have had like a cannon here and here, and it would have been terrible for him. But instead, I dropped a 4th base because I knew he was going to spend a bunch of minerals trying to wall that back in. And then I went for, I think I got maxed out at like 13, 14 minutes. And then he had Colossus, and then Colossus just tore my army apart. Looks like we're seeing spawning pool first, which is not unusual. That way you can get the Zerglings out, just in case he wants to cannon rush you. Stealing some minerals so that that trip is not wasted. He's not. It doesn't look like he's going to cannon rush this natural expansion, but let's just follow him around, see what he's going to do. I never trust probes, but I guess you can't really cannon rush an expansion without a forge, so never mind on that one. Be good if I was good at what I do, wouldn't it? But we've got double assimilator coming out. 2 gases on the way. No forge in sight. But we have basically what looks like could be a gateway expand or early pressure from our Protoss player. Interesting to see that he hasn't even started completing the wall, but he's going to go with a gateway. So apparently I was wrong on all fronts. It is not a forge fast expand. Our Zergling scouting out, trying to find some sort of pylons. He wants to make sure there's no proxy forge going down. Now, earlier I mean yesterday, I saw this getting walled in with 2 gateways, and it was enough for a zealot to get through, but I don't think it was I'm pretty sure it wasn't enough to get a stalker through. That's for sure. We've got an early 3rd base from our Zerg player. That Zergling still scouting out to make sure that there are no proxy pylons in and around his bases. Now, this map is a little interesting as a Zerg player because it brings up a lot of choices as to where you want your 3rd base to be. Personally, I kind of prefer this as my 3rd base because I'm expanding away from my Protoss opponent. This base is a little bit harder to get to by ground just because of this wall right here. This wall is pretty nice, but I'm just not a fan of having to deal with running around that. Now, is it a little easier to defend? Maybe. However, I like going air and so my mutas have a little bit easier time coming from my main base and defending here. Going air against Protoss, not always the smartest idea, but I love mutas. And now that mutas have been, or become, more viable, I use mutas as much as I possibly can. We got our third base finally established over here, and our Nexus is just now going down. Not going to see very much early pressure coming out from anybody with this much macro going on. But our Protoss player, just in case, is going for these sentries. Doesn't have a whole lot of vision going on. Let's see what he can actually see. Let's go over here. He knows that that third base is down. So he's probably got these sentries down just to make sure that they are filling up on energy as much as possible. Tickle Cannon's going to go to town on this Overlord. Come on, Overlord. You can get there. But it looks like he's going to be tickled to death. And so that's a very disappointing thing. And still with no Forge on the way, but it looks like a Stargate and a Robo going down for a Protoss player. But without the Forge, this is not going to be as safe as what we would hope. We've got another sentry going down. 4 sentries here. That's quite a decent amount of sentries. That's a lot of force fields and a lot of Guardian shields going down. This is a lot of Zerglings. This will contain our Protoss player to the 2 bases, but that's alright. Protoss has one of the strongest 2-base plays in the whole game. I've seen a few of the higher league players getting early burrow, keeping these Zerglings out and about, but burrowing them and keeping them that way. I've also seen some early burrow played with Banelings. Baneling mines have made a comeback a little bit. Getting some more larva injects. Come on, let's psychically get them. Come on. Come on, oh. There it is. There it is. I like to think that I help. Getting this hatchery here will help connect the creep. Moving it out just a little bit further might help connect it just a little bit better. We've got the double... Oh, no, that's not a double Evo chamber. That is one Evo chamber and a Roach Warren going in. This may be a little bit dangerous, seeing as the Stargate is coming in. Void Rays are basically the hardest of hard counters to Roaches. In even numbers, obviously, no amount of Roaches can take down a Void Ray. However, a Void Ray can only take out so many Roaches in a certain amount of time. Tickle Cannon's trying to go to town on another Overlord. I think at this point, seeing as our Zerg player is being fairly defensive, indeed, Turtlefest, our Protoss player could probably go for a third base. Be nice to see it, but it looks like this Void Ray is going to be able to take out this Overseer. The Overseer's not going to see a whole lot. Our Zerg player hasn't even seen any of this tech choice right here. Seeing the Stargate is a little pointless at the moment because he knows that he's got the Void Rays out. However, knowing that he sniped him on the high ground, he should probably know that there's an observer. So assuming that he's using a good train of thought, he knows what our Protoss player is going as far as his tech path. Our Zerg player, despite the fact that we've got 2 Void Rays out on the field, is going to try and go after this hatchery. And did that Void Ray? Oh, indeed he did. He's going to come out and he's going to see this. We've got a few different Spore Crawlers running around the map. Our Void Rays are going to keep. This could be over with Mastlings. Well, not with the Colossus out. I don't believe it would be. However, our Void Ray here is going to scout this, and with Prismatic Alignment, this is definitely a much safer 4th base. However, it would not make much difference given that both Void Rays would have scouted it. Now our Zerglings, it looked like they were going to try and run in and help, but unfortunately Zerglings can't fly despite the wings. These Void Rays may have actually been looking for stray Overlords, because Zerg players love to keep their Overlords out and about. It doesn't look like he got the cancel on that. I don't see a drone. Disappointing for our Zerg player. And the hunt for Red Overlord going on for our Protoss player. Good job, Gene, scouting that out. Colossus, you seem to be a little out of position here. I don't really like our Colossus being out in front of the wall. This is a very... There we go. Fixing our rally there just a little bit, getting it on the inside. That's a great job there. And we've got Roach Hydra Zergling incoming. And the Hydras will be able to deal with these Void Rays fairly well, but it seems like there are enough of them out and about that if they're, well, no, they're just going to run away on the move command. Scouting out for any sort of third base. And now our Zerg player is going to intercept everything. Force field's going down, splitting this army in half. And it doesn't look like our... Well, yeah, he does have range 6, so he does have the range upgrade. But all these force fields going out, scaring our Protoss player back into his hiding hole. All the Zealots are going to do terrible damage. 2 Hydras especially, they're going to have to be microed back fairly effectively. And these Hydras are going to melt before these Colossus. They just don't do enough damage. Hydras are going to be able to take out this Zealot, but that is not what they need to be focusing down. And unfortunately, this was not a cost-effective engagement for our Zerg player. A little bit of missed micro there probably would have been effective to try and back out when the force fields were down. Bait some force fields or bait some other things. Just trying to get that energy from our Protoss player. And this is an interesting choice from our Zerg player, trying to double expand off of that failed attack. Keeping our Protoss player turtling back. I'm not sure if our Protoss player knows well enough to move out, but we will see. Mutas are an interesting choice at the moment, not a terrible choice. I love seeing this Void Rays with our Colossus. It looks like they've got giant cannons at their mouths. These, oh man, these Mutas are just going to do some terrible damage over here. These Stalkers are going to try and do as much damage to these Mutas as possible, but it's not going to do so well. And our Protoss player making a rookie mistake of 1Aing back into the main base. And these Mutas without any cannons or any sort of anti-air in sight. Just going to be interesting. All of my words today gone. All of my wonderful, flavorful descriptions terrible. More Zerglings, more Roaches. I just don't agree with this from our Zerg player. Those Hydras were not a bad choice with the air support. Maybe Corruptors. I do realize that Void Rays do extra damage against armored, but Corruptors will help against the massive units. And our Mutas just aren't going to be able to do quite as much damage as we need them to do. But the Mutas are doing a lot of damage to the Void Rays, doing a decent amount here. But these Roaches scaring these Colossus away, going to take out 2, maybe even 3 of them. And the Mutas are all but gone. Void Rays just doing so much damage. Now the Prismatic Alignment taking out Roaches faster than they can even start showing up. More Hydras at this point now that we've gotten rid of all of our Colossus. And let's see, we're only producing 1 at a time. And we've got a bunch of gateways and Stargates that aren't doing anything. Hydras would be a great opportunity, would have a great opportunity here to do a lot of damage, but unfortunately I don't think that our Zerg player can get them up in enough numbers in order to do enough damage. We are on basically a 4-base Zerg with 6 hatchery production, excuse me, pulling drones now to try and bait some more damage. Oh man, can't win on 5 versus 2 base. Protoss has the strongest 2 base in the game. However, some missed micro and some poor engagements from our Zerg player. Now we're starting to use Hydras and Zerglings together, and these are doing fairly well. These drones are pulling off, doing a little bit of extra damage to our Protoss player. Let's see these upgrades. It looks like 1-1 for our Hydras. This is a great idea for our Zerg player. Finally driving back our Protoss player now. Got a warp in going right on the creep. Our Zerg player has been able to spot this. We need more Zerglings to bait some of the DPS from our Stalkers. And then we've got our Hydras that'll be able to DPS down these Stalkers fairly well, especially because they've got the 1-1 upgrades. And let's find our production tab real quick, just to see what else is going on. If anybody's got any more upgrades, we've got 1 Colossus on the way. Not going to be terribly effective. And our Protoss player does not know that our Zerg player has these 2 extra bases going. And these are almost in full effect now. Just getting the macro rolling. Our Protoss player is trying to expand, get a 3rd base now. And it looks like this Zergling trying as hard as he possibly can to deny that Nexus, but not able to. Our Zerg player has vision of this pylon, needs to go ahead and take that out. It looks like they're going to be able to. And our little Zergling over here denying any sort of fourth base at the moment. He should be able to move in and just tear this army to shreds. We've got Phoenix, which seems like a poor decision now that the mutas are no longer in play. Colossus doing a lot of damage to these Hydras, but not enough. They should be able to attack from the high ground. Those... oh man. While I agree that Phoenix can do some damage to the Roaches, they're picking up just not the right units. Being able to pick up 2 units at a time, not quite the most effective thing out there. Going to be able to deny this third base fairly effectively. And our Protoss player without a third base, without an expansion, he's almost mined out at his natural expansion. Not quite even close to saturated on his main base, but still getting mined out pretty quickly. About to be out of just about everything. We need an Overlord to see the high ground. That Colossus is getting baited down to the low ground. Should be able to focus that down, but our Zerg player is just going to walk in, and there's the GG. That was a pretty interesting game between O and G, and I'm going to go hit a break real quick, get myself something to drink. This is Avos signing out for now. I'll see you in a few minutes.